Hi everyone, it's Jen, Janine and Felicity, and today we have Heidi Young, the founder of the Nest Kids CPR Allergy. And Heidi is a clinical nurse specialist in childhood allergy. Heidi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We basically, as we've sort of talked about in the lead up to this, we've got this wonderful community of mums in the Ready Together community, and questions around allergy and starting solids and babies that might be choking is really sort of starting to bubble up. And so we wanted to bring in someone that really could give that expert advice. So I was wondering if we could kick off today with you just telling us a little bit about how you came to set up the Nest CPR and Allergy and who you are.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for having me today. So I'm obviously Heidi. I'm the founder of the Nest Kids CPR and Allergy, and I founded the Nest about 18 months ago now. And I've always kind of wanted to have my own business, but being a nurse, it's not something that we do that often. And I wasn't really sure, which avenue to take. And then just previous to 18 months ago when I started the business, I was in Glebe Park at a birthday party, and a 6-month-old fully choked on a sausage, and she was just kind of chewing it. She was holding a sausage and just kind of chewing away at it, and she was a friend of a friend, so they were at the same party, but we were literally in the middle of Glebe Park, and I saw this mum kind of doing this out the corner of my eye, and went over, and it was just a horrible situation. And I did obviously the first aid steps, which we'll briefly touch on in a bit, and luckily she brought up the sausage and everything else and started breathing again, but she was grey, limp, and wasn't breathing at all. And it was terrifying, and the mum just kept saying, I didn't know what to do. And that, coupled with the fact that I, over the last 4 years, specialised in childhood allergy. Mum's very worried about anaphylaxis. I've spent 20 years being a registered paediatric nurse as well, and worked in all kind of different areas. ICU, as special care, emergency and oncology, all sorts of. But all you hear often is parents saying, I didn't know what to do. So that's where the light bulb moment, really, when that child choked, this, I know other people are doing it, but I feel like I can deliver this in a way that also, we can incorporate allergy, because that's such a huge thing at the moment. So that's how the Nest was born, really. And it was literally overnight, because I realized I have all the skills, I just need to deliver them, and create a team of nurses that can deliver them too. So that was really where I started. It was kind of New Year's Eve, not this one, but the one before. So we were doing face-to-face classes, obviously, and we work with the Children's Clinic in Bondi Junction as well, and do classes there. We do classes in home, but then COVID hit, so we've taken the classes online. We are developing a type of membership for allergy mums and newborn mums, so two different, because obviously the two very different things, but really our point of difference is that we deal with childhood allergy because we're childhood allergy specialists, and that's what we're trained in. The people I work with are one of them is a president of ASCIA, which is the Australian Society of Clinical Immunology and Allergy. So the information we deliver is straight from the source of Allergy Australia. It's the good stuff, if you like. And 1 in 10 children now has 1 in 10 under 1-year-olds now has a diagnosed food allergy. Yeah. So that's huge, 10%. We saw a need, we saw a gap that needed to be filled, and that's how the Nest was born.
That's fantastic. And so it's obviously a broad course as well. It's sort of, you've got the two lots of mums, a newborn and the ones with allergy. So you obviously, you incorporate both allergy talks in the newborn ones as well. Is it just...
There's a slight overlap with early introduction of the common allergenic foods, but otherwise they're two different. We do two separate classes. Yeah.
And are you seeing pregnant mums as well? I know that a lot of my pregnant mums are becoming trained in infant CPR before they have their babies, and it seems like a great idea. Do you do that?
Definitely. I'd say I actually thought that my target sort of audience would be new mums. I thought that's who we would see, and we absolutely do. We see heaps of new mums, I recently did an online free masterclass, and I know it was isolation, so it was a bit different, but 900 people signed up to this masterclass and 500 turned up, which is, I know it was purely down to the isolation measures, not that I was that feeling, but it was just a Zoom full of babies on laps, like absolutely full. But in the face-to-face classes, we see heaps of pregnant mums, like quite late on, and heaps and heaps of grandparents and husbands as well. So I didn't expect that. I suppose I didn't know who would be attracted, but lots and lots of grandparents as well.
That's fantastic.
And tell me about the common allergens. It is that 1 in 10, that 10% that you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's really,
it's a huge number.
It is a huge number, number under 1. So a lot of our mums are starting to think about solids, or if they're not there already. So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the guidelines state that you can start between 4 to 6 months, never before 4 months, always making sure that your baby is actually ready to eat. You know, that they've got the good, you know, they can sit up, they've got good head control, they're showing interest in food. Being ready to eat is not my speciality. That's, you know, for other specialities, but all I can say is you need to make sure that your child is actually ready to eat and safe to swallow and everything. But between 4 to 6 months is where we as allergy specialists would recommend that you start introducing those common allergenic foods as early as that. Nut butters, obviously not whole nuts, that goes without saying, but nut butters or ground up nuts, all of them. You should be introducing everything before 12 months. The only things that we say not to introduce, which is nothing to do with allergy, is the honey and like the raw cow's milk, but obviously that's for different reasons. From an allergy point of view, you can introduce everything else, even like shellfish, or your wheat, soy, nuts, especially nuts, because it's been proven over and over and over again that early introduction of the common allergenic foods like nuts, wheat, soy, egg, milk products, so milk in things, shows to reduce the rate of childhood allergy. And we see that constantly. There was a study called the LEAP study that was done in the UK over like a 10-year period. And it showed consistently that children who were exposed to peanut at an early age, before the age of 1, consistently didn't develop an allergy to peanuts. And this is shown in Israel, where the children have this peanut snack called bumba, and they have it quite commonly at a very young age. If you're in the UK or you are British, they're like, what's it? So that's kind of what they look like. And in Israel, the rate of peanut allergy is super low, like almost non-existent. Wow. So that's not a coincidence. It's because these babies are exposed to it, because an allergic reaction is an overreaction of the immune system. So it's almost like we're introducing it early, so the body's not like, oh my God, what's this? And then, but what we used to say in the medical profession like a decade ago was, don't give your baby egg till they're 2, don't give your child this. And that was the advice back then. That's not that long ago. But of course, by that point, the immune system's like, whoa, what's this? You know, and then there was all these allergies springing up. So
I find that so interesting, because I have 4 kids that range from 10 down to 3. And when I was feeding my eldest, the advice was 100% wait till 6 months, hold off on everything. So he didn't get fed peanut butter till over 1. And he was anaphylactic to walnuts. He had a really severe walnut allergy that had him hospitalized many times. And then by the time I even had my second child 2 years later, he's now almost 9, the advice had changed completely and then continued to evolve. And that first child, he actually outgrew that tree nut allergy, thank goodness. But nobody else has had the problems that he had, and yet he had so many of those overreactions of the system. It was common, like, you know, it was egg, it was walnuts, and look, it might just be who he was, but I see such a correlation between the way that I handled his food, and even I avoided things in pregnancy thinking I was doing the right thing, and the advice just changed so much by that second baby, and it was eat it all and expose them.
Definitely.
And, you know, so different.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is that you'll hear the older generation, like maybe my parents, saying, you know, that kind of thinking, there's a whole running joke that the mother-in-law will say, oh, a little won't hurt. you know, because, and, you know, grandparents, it's actually a big issue in the survey I did. It's like, I need to educate my parents, because allergy wasn't like this when they were, when their children, like when we were young, it just wasn't. There may be one child in school that had a tree nut allergy or a allergy. Now it's like multiple children per class. So people aren't used to it. And they're thinking that allergy is what we're, you know, like the fashion, oh, my child has this allergy. And it's, you know, like the whole intolerance thing, but it's real, and it's growing, and it's just absolutely going through the roof. Australia is the worst country in the world.
I mean, and it wasn't as severe either. So I mean, when my son would react, it was, you know, it was life-threatening, and that's different to a bit of a rash that people might be used to.
But you know, those families that have a sensitivity in there, and then they're starting to feed and introduce foods to their babies, you know, there's a lot of nervousness as to, I know it's the right thing to do to give them these foods and tastes of things, but we've got a history in our family of these, you know, possibly allergies or sensitivities. So
how do they do it?
Yeah, how do they manage that?
So there's only one way to do it, and it's just giving it.
Yeah.
I do actually have like a structured way on my website, and I'll give you guys that link so you can take a look at that and send it out. And it's purely just to ease the nerves a bit, because there is only one way to do it, and it's put it in the mouth. They have to ingest it to know. You don't rub it on the skin anymore, because the likelihood is your skin will go red anyway, and it doesn't tell you anything. They have to ingest it. You have to ingest something to create an anaphylactic reaction. But if there is a family history, it doesn't mean that child, you could have 6 children that have anaphylaxis to peanuts, doesn't mean number 7 will, or the other way around. The family history is a contributing factor, but it's not a really strong one. So if you have allergies in the family, or severe eczema, or any of those things that go hand in hand, all the more reason to get in there early. Absolutely.
That's such good advice, and so applies to so many other areas we deal with, in that each little person is an individual, and we have to walk that path with that person. So the other question that really is coming up for a lot of members of our group, as a lot of them are close to starting solids, and something people worry about, and just touching on your story, you said at the start of this interview, is choking. Could you talk us through some information around choking, and maybe direct people, if they want further learning, to I don't know if you offer any extra resources, but where they can go to learn that first aid that you need for when a baby is choking, and maybe the difference between when a baby's choking a little bit and then what genuine choking looks like.
So choking, obviously it's the number one worry mostly with parents, and there's kind of 2 things you need to do if a child is actually choking. So I like to try and keep it really simple and just describe the 2 things that are part of the first aid. But basically, a child's gag reflex is really good, especially the younger they are, the more, you know, the whole point of survival for us is to keep our airway clear. So the gag reflex is really sensitive. It's really good for most children. And that's because the body wants to keep the airway clear, you know. So when a child is eating, especially for the first time, and they start coughing, we want to start slamming them on the back. And actually, we just need to let them cough instead of interfering with what their body's trying to do. Because we just need to trust the body. The body is really clever, and it does things for a reason. So if your child has a good productive cough and they're trying to get something up, then just support them and let them cough. Don't start hitting them on the back. The problem lies if the cough gets weaker, and I can't really describe what that is exactly, because every child coughs differently and sounds different. When my child coughs, it sounds like he's coughing up a lung, but it's just the way it sounds. So you have to just, if your child's cough gets weaker, or they start making a noise when they're breathing, you immediately call an ambulance. It's the first thing you have to do. Then you can start the first aid, which I'll just briefly touch on and show you where you can get some resources. If the child stops breathing completely, or is really struggling to breathe and can't, and is changing colour, then we need to start CPR. So CPR has changed. We don't check for a pulse. We don't wait for a child to be immediately unconscious. If your child stops breathing, we need to do CPR straight away. You need to be that pump that keeps oxygenated blood going around the body. until the ambulance gets there, but we always make sure there's an ambulance on the way first. So just to quickly recap, if the child's coughing well, just let them cough, just support them, let them cough. If they're not coughing proper, if they're getting a weaker cough, they're not getting enough air in to be able to cough out, or there's noise, we need to do the first aid, which I'll just tell you about just in a sec. If they stop breathing, then we start CPR. Okay, but the ambulance is always on its way. So with the first aid, we just do back slaps and chest thrusts. So we start with back slaps. Just imagine the first thing you would do if your child is choking is be hitting them on the back. So we do back slaps, and with a young child, say under the age of 2, we would use the heel of our hand here. We would have them laid across our lap with their head just slightly down. So obviously they're like this, just slightly down, let gravity do its thing. And we're gonna, between the shoulder blades, do 5 back slaps, but not fast. We're gonna do 1, and then we're gonna do a quick turn of the head to make sure nothing's come up, 2, and then a quick turn of the head, and we do 5 back slaps. Don't be afraid to do them relatively hard. We're trying to get something up, and you won't break the baby, okay? Their bones are mostly cartilage till they're about 18 months, so they'll be fine, which means they're bendy. And then if nothing's come up with the 5 back slaps, we turn them over onto our lap and we do chest thrusts. So this is kind of like CPR, but instead of CPR being sideways, we're going to have point up, so our fingers are kind of facing the face. And we're going to go between the nipples. We do a short, sharp dip down about a third. We're really trying to blow the wind out of them, to push the wind out of the lungs, to pop out what's up there. So we do 1 and then check the mouth. 2, you can just see the mouth from where they are anyway because they're face up. 3, and then check the mouth. 4, and then 5. If that still hasn't worked, they're still breathing, but they're not, their cough is rubbish and they're making a noise, then we go back to the back slaps. That's all we do. Back slaps, chest thrusts, back slaps, chest thrusts, until either the ambulance arrives or they stop breathing, we start CPR. So you can find at the bottom of our website, on every page, doesn't matter what page you're on, you'll find our first aid pocketbook. It's a PDF that you can it's free, you can download it, and it has about choking in there, plus a lot of other first aid things for children, aimed at children. And then the other thing you can do is join one of our classes. The next one is just at the beginning of June. It's online, obviously. We're trying to figure out a way to get back into face-to-face safely, but I think that we're a bit early for that yet.
Yeah, look, I think we're rolling with that.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how we can manage that. But yeah, there's an online class in June.
Look,
as well,
I so recommend doing it. I was saying to Janine and Felicity earlier, I did CPR quite frequently through the decade my little kids were little, and it would always surprise me when they would demonstrate those back slaps or back blows, how firm you've got to be. And I think you almost really do need to see that.
Yeah.
And then to feel confident. You want to feel confident when your kid's eating solids, that if something does go wrong, I know what to do. I'm not that mum saying, I don't know what to do, because that's the worst feeling. So, you know, it's so worthwhile.
Yeah. And the thing about CPR and first aid is that you don't need it until you really need it. It's not until it's on top of you. And it's just, you know, a couple of hours out of your time to, I've seen it often enough. I am a bit jaded because of my job and what I do. So I see worst case scenario all the time. But yeah, first aid is so important. Often a first aider can actually fix the issue before the ambulance even arrives. So it's really powerful to know what to do.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We would love to keep connecting you in with our community because this is such vital information. So we so appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe we can unpack a little bit more allergy down the track with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Heidi, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks for coming. Lovely to meet you. See you.